School of our Divine Infinite Being, Central Doctrine.
Perennialism and the Shakta philosophical foundations of our Eastern religious practices. The blossoming of the goddess into multiple cultures and Sri Ramakrishna.
Without reconnecting with the deeper feminine energy of the universe, we are unlikely to solve our current global crisis that is based, to a great extent, upon ignoring the divine presence of the goddess in nature and in ourselves. Shambhavi Chopra, Yogic Secrets of the Dark Goddess.
For those well-versed in the historicity of Shaktism and the philosophical perspectives of India, this chapter may serve primarily as a refresher. However, if you hail from a Western mystery tradition, I strongly encourage you to read through this section attentively. Use it as a foundational bridge for your own exploration into the vast expanse of Indian philosophical traditions.
O Mother, I have taken refuge in thee. Teach me what to do and what to say. Thy will is paramount everywhere and is for the good of thy children. Merge my will in thy will and make me thy instrument. Sri Ramakrishna's Prayer to Kali.
Sri Ramakrishna is highly esteemed within the Shakta tradition, particularly for his profound devotion to the Divine Mother. His dedication to Goddess Kali, along with his deep spiritual experiences and empathetic advocacy of bhakti, devotion, significantly contribute to the deep reverence Shaktas holds for him. His ecstatic spiritual encounters and his personal communion with the goddess are greatly inspirational to followers of the Shakta path. Many adherents of Shaktism view Ramakrishna as an avatar, or divine embodiment, specifically of the Divine Mother. However, the School of our Divine Infinite Being exercises caution in declaring any individual as a direct incarnation, acknowledging that some claims have historically been misused across cultures. Despite these reservations, this view demonstrates the deep respect and veneration Ramakrishna garners within the tradition. Beyond this, Ramakrishna practiced as a Vaishnava devotee, especially in the philosophies of Ramanuja and Chaitanya, the great reformers that led to the Gaudiya Vaishnava Vedantic religious practices. Raised in a devout Brahmin household, Ramakrishna deeply imbibed the rich traditions and sacred rituals of Sanatana Dharma. He perceived the multitude of Hindu deities not merely as figures of worship, but as diverse manifestations of the boundless, indescribable Brahman, each deity embodying aspects of the divine within the scope of human understanding. In Hinduism, the diverse forms of God as a perfect parent, partner, child, or friend are viewed as devotional paths that progressively lead to the profound depths of the nameless and formless Absolute. Even as devotees engage in personalized worship, adorning and caring for deities, they are ultimately on a journey towards realizing a more profound spiritual truth. This mirrors our theurgic models of merging with our Divine Infinite Being through the invocation of the Divine Double, which is interwoven at every point of the spherical cosmic horizon with the entire cosmos, thereby rendering them equivalent and identical. This profound truth was vividly experienced by Ramakrishna during his Nirvikalpa Samadhi, a state where all mental constructs and dualities dissolve into pure consciousness, entering a realm of existence, knowledge, bliss, Sat Chit Ananda, within our Divine Infinite Being. In this state, often considered the pinnacle of yogic experience, there is no perception of time, space, or individuality, only an unbounded unity within the Absolute. This ultimate experience gave him the realization that all gods and religious practices, despite their apparent differences, are but varied interpretations and paths to the same infinite reality. He saw that the ultimate reality, when expressed diversely in the world's religions, could never be fully captured by human language or thought. His experiences across Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity further convinced him that all spiritual pursuits, however diverse, converge towards the same universal truth. Just as rivers originating from different sources eventually merge into the ocean, so too do all paths of faith lead to the singular vast ocean of the Absolute. Narendra, who would later become renowned as Swami Vivekananda, was among the most eminent disciples of Ramakrishna and played a crucial role in disseminating his core teachings. He was instrumental in elevating the philosophies of Vedanta and yoga to the global stage, introducing these teachings to European and American audiences. Born in 1863 in Calcutta, his educational years at the University of Calcutta were profoundly shaped by the guiding and teaching of his mentor, Ramakrishna. Narendra, along with his peers at the Math, Ramakrishna's monastic school, often engaged in deep, enriching evening discussions. These sessions featured thorough examinations of the teachings of Ramakrishna, Shankara, and Ramanuja, as well as contemplations on the spiritual insights of Jesus Christ. They also explored a diverse range of topics from Hindu and European philosophies to the intricate teachings of the Vedas, Puranas, and Tantras. This practice of gathering for intellectual discourse was not unlike the symposiums of ancient Greek philosophers, where figures like Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates debated concepts of truth, beauty, and ethical living, shaping the philosophical landscape of the Western world. Just as these Greek philosophers congregated in the academies and public forums of Athens to delve into philosophical arguments and foster collective enlightenment, Narendra and his fellow monks at the Math gathered under the guidance of Ramakrishna's teachings to forge a deeper understanding of universalism, a philosophy that Narendra wholeheartedly embraced. Universalism is simply the same concept as perennialism in our school and faith. For instance, although Ramakrishna was considered a Shakta devotee of the goddess, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, composed by his disciple Mahendranath Gupta, places a notable emphasis on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya, a pivotal figure in the Bhakti movement, and renowned for his advocacy of the worship of Lord Krishna within Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, is mentioned 176 times. Sri Ramakrishna greatly esteemed Chaitanya, regarding him as an essential spiritual teacher and recognizing him as an avatar of Vishnu, a reflection of how his own disciples viewed him. The discussion at the Math of Ramakrishna also frequently included reflections on Ramanuja's interpretations, integrating his qualified non-dualism into their thoughtful dialogues. Sri Ramakrishna himself said, "Again, I cannot utter a word unless I come down at least 2 steps from the plane of samadhi." Shankara's non-dual explanation of Vedanta is true, and so is the qualified non-dualistic interpretation of Ramanuja. He elaborated on Ramanuja's view, stating, "It is the theory of Ramanuja. According to this theory, Brahman, or the Absolute, is qualified by the universe and its living beings. These three, Brahman, the world, and living beings, together constitute one. The Nitya and the Leela are 2 aspects of one and the same reality. Therefore, according to Ramanuja, Brahman is qualified by the universe and the living beings. This is the theory of qualified non-dualism." Ramakrishna's exploration of Ramanuja's qualified non-dualism, Vishishtaveda, is profoundly influenced by his foundational Shakta faith and fervent devotion to the goddess Kali. His practice as a Shakta adept was deeply entrenched in the concepts of Nitya, the eternal unchanging truth, and Leela, the dynamic, ever-unfolding cosmic drama. These dual aspects of the divine are crucial in the worship of Kali, who represents the ultimate reality as both the creator and the destroyer, orchestrating the universe's cycles of creation and dissolution. Alongside this, Ramakrishna was thoroughly immersed in the Vaishnava traditions of his native Bengal, especially those promulgated by Chaitanya and embraced within Gaudiya Vaishnavism. The Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Chaitanya Bhagavatam, both authored in the 16th century, are seminal works that meticulously document the life and teachings of Chaitanya. Recognized as a significant reformer who continued the legacy of Ramanuja, Chaitanya is acclaimed as the founder of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He elevated Krishna to the supreme status of the original personality of Godhead, affirming Krishna as both the source of Vishnu and his avatar, themes extensively explored in later chapters of our central doctrine. Importantly, Chaitanya also revered the goddess Devi, integrating her worship into his spiritual practice. From the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is an enlightening depiction of Chaitanya's goddess devotion during Durga Puja. Upon seeing the image of Durga, Sri Chaitanya was overcome with ecstatic devotion and cried out, "Jaya Jagadishwari," victory to the goddess of the universe. He danced and sang, immersed in the divine energy of the goddess. He also imparted to a devotee, "The Divine Mother is the inseparable energy of the Supreme Lord. By worshipping her with sincere devotion, one surely attains the Lord himself." In the Chaitanya Bhagavatam, while observing women, Chaitanya explained, "Behold, these women are all manifestations of the Divine Mother. To serve them with love and reverence is the highest form of worship." The Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir campus, part of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, traces its roots to the lineage of Chaitanya, and specifically to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, a devoted follower renowned for introducing Krishna consciousness to the United States. Its headquarters are located in Mayapur, West Bengal, also known as the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium. It is positioned to become one of the largest Vedic temple complexes in the world, specifically dedicated to the Lord Krishna. The temple showcases the grandeur of Vedic architecture and cosmology. Upon completion, it is expected to be the largest temple globally dedicated to Krishna. In West Bengal, India, Shaktism and Vaishnavism collectively encompass approximately 95% of the religious demographic, with Shaktism holding a slight majority. While Vaishnavism enjoys broader global adherence, in Bengal, people from all religious backgrounds unite in celebration of their vibrant festivals. Durga Puja, the foremost festival in the region, commemorates Goddess Durga's triumph over the buffalo demon Mahishasura. This event occurs annually in September or October, aligned with the lunar calendar, and extends over 10 days. The festivities peak in the last 5 days, celebrated with intricate rituals, stunning crafted pandals, temporary structures, vibrant cultural performances, and grand processions. Following closely on the heels of Durga Puja is Kali Puja, which venerates the goddess Ma Kali, a formidable aspect of Shakti, and for us, her highest form. Held in late October or November, this celebration features nocturnal rituals with offerings of red hibiscus flowers, rice, and sweets. The festive atmosphere is amplified by the extensive use of lights and fireworks that adorn homes and streets, creating a dazzling spectacle of light and joy throughout the community. Although our school adopts the perennial perspective, particularly as perennial mandalans, it is strongly recommended to venerate and worship specific deities for extended periods. My practice is distinctly polytheistic, involving theurgic rites where I often connect with the supreme ultimate reality, the Absolute as our divine infinite being, or the Supreme Self. Despite this broad spiritual engagement, I have a special dedication to Ma Kali, not unlike the devotion of Sri Ramakrishna, and for very similar reasons. Kali profoundly manifested to me in a vision that changed the course of my life, saving me from a potentially fatal outcome. This deep connection places the goddess in the highest regard within my practice, one that will last unto my death. I share this transformative experience in a video on our website and YouTube. Annually, I ensure to travel to India to celebrate these significant festivals with our staff. Within this mosaic of Bengali culture, characterized by a diverse range of celebrations and worship practices that champion harmony across the various Hindu designations, deep-seated prejudices across various religious lines, from Hindu to Christian, Muslim to Buddhist, still persisted. Furthermore, intense debates over the supremacy of different religious practices, particularly pronounced in the West, were introduced to India through British occupation, intensifying these discussions. These ongoing debates undeniably prompted Ramakrishna to articulate a profound message about the unity underlying diverse religious experiences. He observed, "Wherever I look, I see men quarreling in the name of religion, Hindus, Mohammedans, Brahmos, Vaishnavas, and others. But they never reflect that he who is called Krishna is also called Shiva and bears the name of the primal energy, Jesus and Allah as well. The name Rama with 1,000 names as well. A lake has several ghats. At one, Hindus take water in pitchers and call it jal. At another, Muslims take water in leather bags and call it pani. At a third, Christians call it water. Can we imagine that it is not jal, but only pani or water? How ridiculous. The substance is one under different names, and everyone is seeking the same substance. Only climate, temperament, and name creates difference. Let each man follow his own path. If he sincerely and adamantly wishes to know God, peace be unto him, he will surely realize him." Ramakrishna's approach to bhakti aligns closely with the foundational principles of the perennial philosophy of our school and the Iamblican model of Platonism. As noted in previous chapters, scholar Athanasati remarks, Iamblichus's impressive synthesis embraced, justified, and finally systematized whatever was known of humanity's past. All major theologies, whether Egyptian, Babylonian, or Greek, along with their cultic customs, mythologies, and metaphysics, were explained as facets of the same grandiose revelation. This perspective mirrors Sri Ramakrishna's view that various religious practices are interconnected expressions of a single divine reality. Complementing this view, Gregory Shaw articulates, as stated before, from Plato, Iamblichus knew that the One could never be revealed in a singular form, but only under a multitude of veils. The claim to possess a singular truth betrays the very principle of theurgy, understood as cosmogonic activity rooted in an ineffable source, expressed in multiple forms and in culturally distinct traditions. Sri Ramakrishna's practices mirror this philosophy, demonstrating that the divine, or the ultimate truth, manifests through diverse forms and traditions, each offering a unique pathway to the ineffable. The principle of inclusion in diversity, which fostered deep respect for devotees of various deities, permeates many facets of Indian culture. These principles are profoundly manifest in Shaktism, which has significantly influenced the cultural ethos of Bengal. This evolution marks a critical development that aligns with and enriches Ramakrishna's vision of universalism. Ramakrishna's perspective was deeply shaped by Shakta culture. It was the goddess Devi, Ma Kali, who appeared to him in visionary and divinatory ecstasy on multiple occasions. He saw in her all-embracing womb of creation a space for every instantiation or viewpoint, from the singular to the infinite. To better grasp this significance, let's move further back in time to the early 8th century CE, focused on Adi Shankaracharya, Shankara, one of the most influential figures in Indian philosophy and spirituality. Shankara was a major proponent of the Advaita Vedanta school of philosophy, which teaches the non-dualistic nature of the ultimate reality. He traveled extensively across the Indian subcontinent, engaging in debates and discussions about his philosophical views, and established monastic centers, mathas, that continue to profoundly influence Hindu religious life today. His works include commentaries on the principal Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahma Sutras, as well as devotional hymns that remain central to the worship practices within various Hindu traditions, especially those that revere the Divine Mother, Shakti. Shankara's interactions with various religious groups helped shape dialogues across many different sects, including Vaishnavism. Though best known for his Advaita philosophy, Shankara also composed hymns devoted to various deities, including Vishnu, such as the renowned Bhaja Govindam. These works elevated bhakti within Vaishnavism, framing devotion as both a path to personal salvation and a means of realizing non-duality. His contributions to Shaktism were equally profound, as his hymns to the goddess not only influenced early doctrinal development, but also affirms the centrality of the divine feminine as the embodiment of ultimate reality within his philosophical vision. Saundarya Lahari, one of Shankara's most renowned works, is a hymn celebrating the goddess Shakti as a universal mother, blending devotional worship with tantric elements to emphasize her beauty and power. In Devi Bhagavatam, Shankara expresses pure devotion, seeking the goddess's blessing, while the Kanakadhara Stotram, composed to aid a poor woman, highlights the goddess's compassionate intervention in worldly affairs. Shankara seamlessly integrates goddess worship into his teachings, presenting her as both a manifestation of transcendent Brahman and a personal deity guiding devotees towards self-realization. His influence on Shakta non-duality resonates in this statement from Ramakrishna: Mother Kali is none other than Brahman, who alone exists and all else is unreal. Similarly, Swami Vivekananda declared, "The personal God and the impersonal Absolute are not different. My mother is the personalized form of the impersonal." Bhaskaranya Makin later reinforced this idea, stating, "The same Brahman, which is the substance of the world, is called Sri Lalita, who, as the supreme power, creates, protects, and destroys the universe." Sri Lalita is another form of the goddess venerated in southern India. The early century CE, from 300 to 1000, witnessed an extraordinary flourishing of religious and philosophical literature within Indian thought. In stark contrast, during the same period, the Roman Empire experienced the systematic destruction or neglect of over 90% of classical literature in favor of a single spiritual expression, the Bible. It is as if the manifestation of the Absolute Spirit found fertile ground in India, unleashing a remarkable explosion of knowledge that profoundly enriched its philosophical worldview. This intellectual and spiritual efflorescence included the writing, reception, and development of the 18 Purana texts, comprising approximately 400,000 verses in total. The sheer scale of some of these texts reveals their monumental significance and enduring impact. For instance, the Skanda Purana, which venerates Lord Shiva, spans nearly 2,000 pages in basic editions. Scholarly editions, including detailed commentary, can extend to 7,000 pages, with Dr. G.P. Bhatt's comprehensive version exceeding 9,000 pages. This voluminous body of text is comparable to the enduring works of Judaism, which have preserved their textual continuity despite historical challenges. For example, the Jewish Babylonian Talmud, in translation and commentary, edited by Jacob Neusner, encompasses 6,530 pages. Similarly, the Kabbalistic text of the Zohar, edited and commented on by the Kabbalah Center, spans over 10,000 pages. The verses of the 18 Puranas collectively translate to approximately 800,000 to 1,200,000 lines of text. When formatted for modern printed books with 40 to 50 lines per page, these texts would fill an estimated 20,000 to 30,000 pages, a testament to the immense depth and breadth of Indian spiritual and philosophical legacy. The following are a list of the Purana texts, their dates, and the sect of Hinduism most influenced by their development.
Brahma Purana, sect, generally Vaishnavism. Date, likely compiled around 4th century CE. Padma Purana, sect, Vaishnavism. Date, compiled between the 3rd and 10th centuries CE. Vishnu Purana, sect, Vaishnavism. Date, one of the earliest Puranas, around 1st to 4th century CE. Shiva Purana, sect, Shaivism. Date, likely compiled between the 8th and 11th centuries CE. Bhagavata Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, sect, Vaishnavism, particularly Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Date, around the 9th to 10th centuries CE. Narada Purana, sect, Vaishnavism. Date, likely compiled around the 5th century CE. Markandeya Purana, sect, Shaktism. Date, compiled around 4th to 6th centuries CE. Agni Purana, sect, general Hinduism. Date, likely compiled around the 8th to 9th centuries CE. Bhavishya Purana, sect, Vaishnavism. Date, likely written between the 7th and 11th centuries CE. Brahma Vaivarta Purana, sect, Vaishnavism. Date, compiled around the 10th century CE. Linga Purana, sect, Shaivism. Date, likely compiled around the 5th to 7th centuries CE. Varaha Purana, sect, Vaishnavism. Date, compiled around the 10th century CE. Skanda Purana, sect, predominantly Shaivism. Date, the largest Purana, compiled progressively. Earliest portions might be from 4th century CE, with later sections up to the 15th century CE. Vamana Purana, sect, Vaishnavism. Date, likely compiled between the 9th and 10th centuries CE. Kurma Purana, sect, Vaishnavism. Date, likely composed around the 5th century CE. Matsya Purana, sect, Vaishnavism. Date, likely composed between 3rd and 6th centuries CE. Garuda Purana, sect, Vaishnavism. Date, compiled around the 8th to 11th centuries CE. Brahmanda Purana, sect, general Hinduism but significant for Shaktism. Date, likely compiled around the 5th century CE.
The roots of goddess veneration in India run deep, as evidenced by archaeological discoveries including figurines from the Indus Valley Civilization, dating back to between 3,300 and 1300 BC. These artifacts suggest ancient practices of honoring the feminine divine. Yet these early forms of devotion lacked the cohesive framework to be identified as Shaktism. It was not until the early medieval period, between 500 and 1300 CE, that these practices evolved into an organized tradition. As you can see, during the 1st century CE, India witnessed an extraordinary, unparalleled outpouring of literary revelation. While building upon the monumental works of earlier epochs, such as the Upanishads, Mahabharata, and Ramayana, timeless sources of divine wisdom, this new wave of creativity expanded the horizons of spiritual understanding and expression. This transformation phase of spiritual blossoming, during which the Shakta tradition emerged as a formalized and widely recognized system of thought and worship, offered new dimensions to India's ever-evolving spiritual landscape. During this period, significant literary developments in Shaktism were marked by the composition of key texts such as the Devi Bhagavatam Purana and the Kalika Purana. These scriptures solidified theological doctrines and ritual practices, offering divinely inspired narratives about various forms of the goddess and providing detailed ritual instructions. Rooted in a profound literary and spiritual heritage, Shakta philosophy and religious practices emerged with divine resonance, deeply anchored in the ancient wisdom of the Upanishads and thriving on the fertile foundations of Shaivite doctrines. Influenced by the expansive philosophical currents of Shankara's Advaita Vedanta and enriched by both Shaivite and Vaishnavite influences, the Shakta tradition prominently elevated the primacy of the goddess Devi, or Shakti. This emphasis on Shakti, often depicted in divine union with Shiva, evolved significantly within Shaivism. It introduced key concepts to Shakta Tantra that spread into diverse territories, merging with Buddhist and Vietnamese Taoist practices. Moreover, the assimilation of diverse indigenous and local customs further enriched Shakta practices, leading to the emergence of unique tantric forms that are central to its spirituality. From the 7th century onward, Shakta Tantras, including seminal texts such as the Kularnava Tantra and Tantraloka, profoundly shaped Shakti worship. These texts introduced intricate rituals, vivid visualizations, and profound philosophical explorations of the nature of reality, further deepening and expanding the Shakta tradition. The Kularnava Tantra and Tantraloka have significantly shaped Shakta practices throughout their distinct contributions. The Kularnava Tantra focuses on the critical roles of guru devotion and ritual initiation, which it presents as essential for spiritual growth within the Shakta tradition. It details complex ceremonies and sets ethical standards that aim to purify both body and mind, thus deepening the connection to the divine feminine. Conversely, Tantraloka by Abhinavagupta serves as a comprehensive guide, synthesizing earlier tantric traditions. It explains the non-dual philosophy of Kashmir Shaivism and integrates it with Shakta theology, highlighting consciousness as a fundamental force in the universe. This integration elevates both the ritual and meditative practices to encompass cosmic dimensions. Together, these texts enrich Shakta devotion and philosophy, inviting followers to engage with deeper theological insights. Parallel developments occurred in Buddhist communities within Kashmir, heavily influenced by Shaivite and Shakta traditions, with the rise of Mahayana Buddhism and the adoption of these Hindu-rooted tantric practices. Early texts such as the Guhya Tantra, written in the 8th century, exhibit sophisticated ritual systems and visualizations that reflect strong Shakta influences, particularly in the use of mandalas and deity worship. The exchange between Hindu and Buddhist tantric practices was bidirectional. For example, the Hevajra Tantra, also from the 8th century, adapted Hindu deities into a Buddhist framework. Conversely, Hindu texts such as the Prapanchansara Tantra, attributed to Shankara from the same period, incorporated Buddhist philosophical elements, including the concept of sunyata, emptiness. This era of intense religious and philosophical ferment facilitated profound exchanges between Hindu and Buddhist traditions, particularly in the veneration of the feminine divine and interpretations of reality. The notion of Shakti Hinduism found a parallel in the veneration of Tara within Buddhist practices, exemplifying this mutual influence. Later texts, such as the Yogini Tantra from the 16th century CE, demonstrate these philosophical borrowings by integrating Buddhist ideas of emptiness into Hindu concepts of Maya and Brahman. This syncretism extended into religious art and iconography, with stylistic overlaps in the depictions of deities in both traditions. Regions like Nepal and Tibet became vibrant centers of this convergence, where Hindu and Buddhist iconography were often interwoven. Shared representations of deities, such as Mahakala in Buddhism and Shiva in Hinduism, were common. This was particularly evident in the Shaivite and Shakta influences on Vietnamese Taoist goddess worship practices. The My Sun Sanctuary, a significant archaeological site in Southeast Asia, is a Shiva temple complex located near the village of My Sun in Quang Nam Province, central Vietnam. Comprising 70 structures dedicated to Shiva, it stands as a testament to the extensive cultural exchange between the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia. Temples within the complex are adorned with sculptures and reliefs of Hindu goddesses such as Lakshmi, Saraswati, and Durga. Moreover, the presence of Mahayana Buddhism and Shaktism, which emphasized the veneration of the feminine divine, had a profound impact on the religious landscape of Vietnam. Goddess worship in Vietnam is deeply rooted in the region's indigenous traditions, yet its evolution was profoundly shaped by the direct influence of Indian culture and religious practices, particularly through the spread of Shaktism, Shaivism, and Buddhism during the Champa Kingdom between 192 CE and 1832 CE. This syncretism significantly contributed to the development of Vietnam's rich and complex goddess worship culture, which seamlessly integrated with local animistic and ancestral worship practices and Taoist beliefs, creating a uniquely Vietnamese interpretation of divine femininity. This cultural fusion occurred in concert with the rapidly flourishing Shakta traditions that greatly influenced this interchange between India and Vietnam. The influence of Shaktism in particular, centered on the worship of the feminine divine, resonated strongly with local beliefs in the sacred power of nature's spirits and mother goddesses. Over time, Indian goddesses, specifically Durga and Lakshmi, were assimilated into the Vietnamese pantheons of deities, blending their attributes with those of indigenous spirits known as Than. This syncretism allowed the worship of powerful female figures to flourish within a distinctly Vietnamese cultural and spiritual framework that is still very much alive today. One of the most significant outcomes of this syncretism is the Dao Mao tradition, a uniquely Vietnamese religious system centered on the worship of the Mother Goddess. While deeply indigenous in its roots, Dao Mao reflects the layered influence of Hindu, Buddhist, and Taoist traditions. Figures such as Mao Thong Thane, Mother of the Heavens, and Mao Thoi, Mother of the Waters, demonstrate parallels with Hindu goddesses associated with cosmic order and natural elements, while the ritual practices often echo Taoist ceremonial structures and Buddhist liturgical elements. Today, the infusion of goddess worship in Vietnam is most vividly seen during festivals like the Pui Day Festival in Nam Dinh, celebrating the Mao goddesses. These events act as living proof of the long-standing influence of Indian religious traditions and their deep integration into Vietnam's spiritual landscape. The diversity and adaptability of Shaktism across different cultures and philosophical systems highlights its fundamental role in forming Ramakrishna's universalist perspective. This capacity for adaptation is apparent not only in the practices of Shaktism, as discussed earlier, and in the teachings of Ramakrishna, but also in the Shakta Puranas themselves. The Devi Bhagavatam Purana, dedicated to Ma Shakti, the goddess Devi, is typically dated between the 6th and 9th century CE. It closely follows the seminal Srimad Bhagavatam Purana of Vaishnava Vedanta, which extensively focuses on the avatars of Lord Vishnu, particularly Krishna. The exact date of the Srimad Bhagavatam's composition is generally believed to be between the 8th and 10th century CE. Although both texts originate from the same era, the Srimad Bhagavatam Purana's composition is often seen as slightly earlier, as the central theme of Krishna as the original personality of Godhead is echoed and elevated in the Devi Bhagavatam. The Devi Bhagavatam provides a compelling and foundational perspective on the perennial nature of the divine, illustrating the Supreme Being as the underlying unity behind all forms of worship. This text elucidates the interconnectedness of all deities, presenting a vision where diverse forms of devotion are harmoniously integrated. A heartfelt dialogue encapsulates this view. The sages asked Sutra, "O Sutra, you have described the glory of all the Devas. Now tell us, who is the greatest amongst them?" Suta replied, "Know that all deities are worthy of worship, for they all derive from the same ultimate source. Whoever worships any deity with faith, indeed worships the supreme energy, Devi, for she is the root of all creation." This passage asserts that the myriad deities revered across different traditions are manifestations of a single supreme energy, the Devi. It emphasizes that devotion directed towards any deity is ultimately received by the Supreme Goddess, who is the quintessence of all existence and the essence of all divine forms. The Devi Bhagavatam vividly uses the metaphor of rivers flowing into a single ocean to describe the unity of spiritual paths, a concept frequently mentioned by Ramakrishna. This metaphor beautifully illustrates the perennial view of divine worship. It states, "As rivers, having their independent origins, and then flowing and coursing through various lands, finally merge into the ocean, so do all these paths that people follow, regardless of the deity they worship, ultimately lead to me." Incorporating this imagery, the Devi Bhagavatam suggests that while the diverse practices and paths of devotion may appear distinct, they all channel towards the same transcendent destination, the ocean of consciousness itself, the Supreme Goddess. As previously mentioned, this analogy resonates deeply with Iamblichus's insights into the nature of the divine. He posited that the One could never be fully disclosed in a singular form. Instead, it is revealed through a multitude of veils. As Gregory Shaw stated, the claim to possess the singular truth betrays the very principle of theurgy, understood as cosmogonic activity rooted in an ineffable source, expressed in multiple forms and in culturally distinct traditions. Moreover, the Devi Bhagavatam states, no matter which deity one chooses to serve, whether it is Shiva, Vishnu, Surya, or any other god, it is the Devi who energizes all these forms and receives the devotion offered to them. This statement directly establishes the goddess's role as the universal recipient of all worship and the fundamental force energizing every divine expression. These teachings of the Devi Bhagavatam advocate a perennial view of spirituality, wherein the apparent diversity of forms and practices is rooted in a deep-seated unity. The Supreme Goddess, Devi, is central to this spiritual landscape, embodying the ultimate truth that transcends individual distinctions and cultural boundaries. Her worship offers a universal pathway to enlightenment and spiritual fulfillment. Although Devi is revered as the highest deity and the source of all other gods, there exists a frequently misunderstood relationship between her and Lord Krishna. This complexity arises from Krishna's designation as the supreme and original personality of Godhead in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which influences and nuances her perceived supremacy in the broader pantheon. To better understand this, first let's review her pronouncement of the other male deities. In declaration of her overarching sovereignty, the Devi states, "I am the creator of the universe, its preserver and destroyer. When I create the world, I am known as Brahma. In its preservation, I am called Vishnu, and at the time of dissolution, I am known as Shiva. These distinctions are for the understanding of the unwise. The wise see only one Devi." To relate to each of her male counterparts, who manifest different aspects of the supreme ultimate reality as Purusha, the Devi Bhagavatam elaborates on their roles with vivid descriptions. Vishnu's role is captured as the soul of all beings. Lord Vishnu, who lies on the cosmic ocean, and from whose navel springs the lotus of the universe, is celebrated as the Purusha, the soul of all beings. Similarly, Shiva's eternal nature is highlighted. Shiva, the auspicious one, who is the eternal Purusha and encompasses all three times, past, present, and future, is the universe itself and beyond. Finally, Brahma's significant role as a creator is detailed. Brahma, born from the lotus emanating from Vishnu, is known as the Purusha, whose creative power brings forth the universe. These statements reinforce the concept of an integrated divine presence manifesting in various forms, yet fundamentally unified in the essence of the Devi. Beyond these three incarnations of the divine masculine, the Purusha enshrined within the cosmic womb of the Devi, Krishna receives particular profound reverence, not as a manifestation but as an equivalent. This is something rare even in Hindu scripture, where the Devi declares the manifestation of Krishna as tantamount and supreme. The Devi Bhagavatam extols Krishna's splendor, identifying him as the supreme Purusha, a view resonating with the followers of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Stemming from the Srimad Bhagavatam, it proclaims, Krishna, known as the highest Purusha, transcends the limits of birth and death, and governs all cosmic manifestations as the sovereign of the universe. Krishna, the Lord of all, the true Purusha, the supreme entity, the eternal one, the divine Brahman, manifested himself as the foremost of all beings in the universe. From his navel emerged a lotus, the birthplace of Brahma. Here she is equating Krishna directly with Mahavishnu, and not as just one of his incarnations. It is further stated, the Supreme Goddess resides within Krishna, enhancing his play and pastimes within the infinite universes that emanate from him. As the Divine Mother, she manifests alongside him, enriching the cosmic dance. This subtle designation highlights a unique aspect of their divine interplay, contrasting with the earlier description, when I create the world I am known as Brahma, in its preservation I am called Vishnu, and at the time of dissolution I am known as Shiva. Here the Supreme Goddess is described as residing within Krishna and manifesting alongside him. The scripture continues, in every pore of this cosmic form of Krishna, innumerable universes are found. He is the original person, the oldest, the firstborn of all existing things. He is verily the Purusha, witnessed as the whole universe. This passage designates Lord Krishna as the original person and the oldest and the firstborn, a designation made by the Gaudiya Vaishnava as the original supreme personality of Godhead. The idea of Krishna as the original form of Vishnu, or even as the supreme form of the divine surpassing Vishnu, finds its most explicit theological elaboration in the Bhagavata Purana, also known as the Srimad Bhagavatam, which, as explained, dates back to between the 8th and 10th century CE. This text is one of the primary sources of Krishna's predominance in Gaudiya Vaishnavism and other Krishna-centered traditions. In elaborating on Krishna's unparalleled sovereignty and essence, the Srimad Bhagavatam provides profound insights. It declares in Canto 1, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Savayam, which translates to Krishna is the original personality of Godhead himself. This pivotal verse positions Krishna not merely as an avatar of Vishnu, but as the Swam Bhagavan, the original source of all manifestations. Furthermore, the text elucidates the extent of Krishna's cosmic influence in Canto 10, where Lord Brahma, after realizing his own misperceptions, hymns, "You are the only shelter of all these worlds, you are everything, and you are the ultimate creator." This highlights Krishna's role as the fundamental force behind all creation, maintenance, and destruction. Traditional roles attributed to Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva respectively, but unified in Krishna as the supreme deity. The Bhagavatam further intensifies this narrative in Canto 2, describing the Virat Rupa, or the cosmic form of Krishna, stating, "From whom a single exhalation emanates innumerable universes, and by whose simple inhalation they again draw to oblivion," illustrating the breath of Krishna as the life force of the cosmos. This depiction not only emphasizes his control over cosmic cycles, also his transcendence beyond them, aligning with the teachings of the Devi Bhagavatam that celebrate the divine feminine within Krishna, enhancing and participating in his cosmic play. Through these verses, the Srimad Bhagavatam firmly establishes Krishna as the Purusha, the original and supreme form of the divine, and the foundational deity in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, echoing the sentiment from the Devi Bhagavatam about the integral role of the Supreme Goddess. These scriptures collectively portray a theological framework where Krishna and the Devi embody the full spectrum of divine attributes, underpinning the unity and complexity of Vedic cosmology in the co-equality of feminine and masculine forces. What we have here is a very unique perspective within Shakta tradition, aligning with the Vaishnava tradition to create a co-equality. This is not a case of male dominance over female, but rather a genuine interlocked duality in participatory union, forming an absolute unity, a manifestation of our divine infinite being. In Gaudiya Vaishnavism, the relationship between Radha and Krishna is central. Numerous authoritative texts and teachings by prominent Gaudiya Vaishnava gurus emphasize their co-equal and deeply interconnected divine natures. Its founder, Chaitanya, clearly states, "The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separate themselves eternally." Radha is a divine manifestation of the Devi, serving as Krishna's eternal consort. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, stated, "Radha and Krishna are one and the same, but they have assumed two bodies. Thus they enjoy each other, tasting the mellows of love." This theme, which emerged within Tantric traditions, particularly those influenced by Kashmir Shaivism, and the practices of Shaktism that emerged from it, views Shiva and Shakti as two aspects of the same reality, symbolizing consciousness and energy respectively. Both are essential and neither is superior to the other. Throughout Hinduism, there are several notable examples of divine manifestations where a god and goddess are depicted as so unified that they form a single entity, symbolizing their absolute co-equality and interdependence. One of the most iconic representations of this concept is Adharaneshvara, a synthesis of Shiva and Shakti. The concept of Adharaneshvara appears in various Puranas, including the Skanda Purana and Shiva Purana, dating back to the 1st millennium CE. The iconography and theological implications are discussed in detail in these texts, explaining how this form of Shiva embodies the total unity between the genders, transcending all duality. Animism, Vishnu, Krishna, and the spiritual planet of Goloka Vrindavana, through the lens of the multiverse interpretation. The Bhagavad Gita is by far the most influential text in all of the Hindu spiritual canon and considered one of our three holy books. In the Gita, Krishna manifests as an avatar of Vishnu, incarnating into the material world, representing the Father in his total personal form, similar to the story of Christ in traditional Christianity. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas have a term they use to revere Krishna, Swami Bhagavatam. This term means the original supreme personality of Godhead. Gaudiya Vaishnavas believe that Krishna is Swami Bhagavan, the source of all other forms of God, including Vishnu. While Vishnu is revered and worshipped, Krishna is considered the highest and most complete manifestation of the divine. This concept is a powerful way of approaching the totality state as a divine personality and personal God. Although string theory physics did not exist at the time these concepts were put into practice, both Platonism and string theory support the explanation of the Supreme Personality. Let me explain further. First, let's look at the concept of the limited and unlimited in Iamblican Platonism. The totality state is unlimited, and as you have read previously, we relate that to the singularity, Vishnu, incarnating into the limitless bubble universes. This incarnating Father is eternal inflation, the central psyche of the multiverse, through our adherence to the equation of psyche equals singularity. Krishna, as Vishnu's incarnation into the physical world, represents the limiting of the unlimited. This limiting is the many worlds of the multiverse and the pastimes of Krishna.
The pastimes of Krishna are like an ocean with no shore. They are immeasurable and unfathomable. There is no end to the transcendental qualities of Krishna. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila.
When you see Vishnu as the unlimited, eternal inflation, the singularity, and Krishna as the limited, decohering many worlds, the incarnation of Vishnu, and their total objective activity within all bubble universes within the multiverse, we have what Leonard Susskind would call the eternal inflating space-time geometric unity. Now consider that this limiting nature of Krishna in its infinite variety of activity, or many worlds, or pastimes, is also unlimited when you see them objectively, meaning that the unlimited itself, Vishnu, is found within its very nature. This is why Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, as the pastimes or the expressions of existence are both the unlimited source and the infinite limiting into variety all together in one eternal inflating space-time geometric unity, and therefore also the source of Vishnu's ultimate form. By the unlimited, Vishnu, limiting himself into a divine personhood, the avatar of Krishna, this allows a personal relationship with the infinite possible. Krishna's pastimes incarnate into every bubble universe breathed out by Vishnu laying down upon the causal ocean. Leonard Susskind states that in the cosmic landscape of the multiverse, the number of possible varieties is 10 to the 500th power. If you counted one number per second, it would take more than the age of the universe to count to even a fraction of this number. Each compactification of string theory's extra dimensions leads to a different vacuum state, characterized by different physical constants and laws. The different bubble universes in the megaverse correspond to these different vacuum states. Thus, the number of different types of universes is roughly equal to the number of different vacuum states. Because each vacuum state can have different physical constants, such as the strength of forces, masses of particles, etc., the universe can be incredibly diverse. Some may have physics similar to ours, while others could be radically different. Susskind states, in the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics and the multiverse of eternal inflation, the world is viewed as an unbounded collection of parallel universes. If the causal diamond histories are the many worlds, this construction shows that the multiverse is the many worlds pieced together in a single geometry. This single geometry has at its furthest boundary no decoherence. Also stated by Susskind, in a global description of an eternally inflating space-time, decoherence cannot occur. Think of eternal inflation as a boundaryless lake, and within it are the decoherent causal diamond nucleated bubble universes, many worlds, limiting themselves into causal diamond, Big Bang, inside-out black hole universes, causing ripples that never reach the edge, never disturbing the furthest boundary, but altogether still one within the lake, not separate from it. All of these expressions, these infinite limitations, these pastimes, are as Chaitanya stated, the pastimes of Krishna are like an ocean with no shore. The ripples themselves are just disturbances within the boundlessness of eternal inflation. Here, in the boundless global description of eternal inflation are the universes and the many worlds and the megaverse of multiverses, all together in one total collection of unbounded many-world causal diamond histories. Our own cosmos, as we have been teaching you, has an infinitely hot two-dimensional spherical cosmic horizon where the infinite observables in the hat holographically project to every point in space-time from every point of its perimeter. Our cosmic horizon is part of an unbounded collection where the infinite observables in the hat are radiating from the spherical two-dimensional boundary of the cosmic horizon of all bubble universes, all together in a single space-time geometry. Although it is the cosmic horizon of our own universe where the infinite eternal self, our divine double, radiates in on vibrating strings of energy to the holographic projection that you are, here on Earth, the cosmic horizon itself is unbounded, and part of the total space-time geometric unity, along with all other unbounded nucleated universes in the megaverse of multiverses. Eternal inflation, the singularity, Vishnu, and the infinite unbounded nucleated bubble universes, many worlds, the infinite pastimes of Krishna, are altogether one space-time geometry, or the total objective nature of the incarnating Krishna, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. The multiverse, being the many worlds pieced together in a single geometry in an unbounded collection of parallel universes, altogether is the abode of Krishna, Goloka Vrindavana, where it is said all of the other infinite spiritual worlds, bubble universes, emanate. The concept of Goloka Vrindavana and its relation to other spiritual worlds is rooted in the teachings of the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, particularly in the work of saints like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and later elucidated by scholars such as Bhakti Vinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati. We have been teaching throughout our central doctrine of waking up to the nature of our eternal, immortal selves that exists smeared out on every point of the cosmic horizon, and all at once, simultaneously, right here on our waking world experiences. All cosmic horizons all together in their spherical, unbounded, infinite domain to us and our school is Goloka Vrindavana, where all of material existence is immortal, eternal, and infinite, just as it says of our cosmic horizon in string theory cosmology. The material and spiritual realms are interconnected through Krishna's divine presence. The material world is sustained by Krishna's energies, and engaging in his pastimes in the material world provides a bridge for souls to connect with the waking state of our immortal being that exists in Goloka Vrindavana. Krishna's pastimes in both the material and spiritual worlds are expressions of his infinite divine play and are the personality or supra-persona of the eternal archetypes and forms of Jungian psychology and Platonism as the God archetype, the source of all other archetypes. The ultimate goal for devotees is to engage in eternal loving service to Krishna in Goloka Vrindavana. This service is seen as the highest form of spiritual fulfillment, where the soul's true nature as an eternal servant of God is fully realized. Just as the divine double, the immortal self, is found at the cosmic horizon, on Goloka Vrindavana we exist in our infinite and eternal natures. Susskind explains, here on earth we remain unaware of our infinite nature, which is echoed by the spiritual teachers of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, saying although we are here and on Goloka Vrindavana simultaneously, there we remain asleep. They say that everything in the physical world has its counterpart in Goloka Vrindavana, but there everything is infinitely God-conscious. Every blade of grass, every tree, every cloud, every single atom is immortal, eternal, existing outside of time and aware of its inseparable relationship to Krishna, the whole. Just like this, in string theory cosmology, at the cosmic horizon, all the past, present, and future of the entire universe is conserved, smeared out across every point of its infinitely hot spherical two-dimensional plane. Here, as stated by both string theorists Leonard Susskind and Brian Greene, everything that happens will happen an infinite number of times. String theory, just as the statements about Goloka Vrindavana, say that on this plane, the cosmic horizon, or Goloka Vrindavana, we exist just as we exist here. But there we are infinite and outside of time. The descriptions of the cosmic horizon in string theory cosmology and the descriptions of Goloka Vrindavana are not only similar in their description, they are simply the exact same place, just revealed through two very different methods of inquiry, one scientific and one philosophical religious. Susskind would have us believe, due to complementarity, that we will always remain asleep to our immortal natures. Although it is only through great effort that one awakens to their infinite nature, achieving Krishna Consciousness or God awareness is absolutely possible. In our school, we find the most direct route to this form of self-God realization to be the path of ritual theurgy, if not combined with yoga, especially that of Raja Kundalini. Since at least the 9th and 10th century CE, our Eastern spiritual family, especially those of Vaishnava Vedanta, have described and expounded on this realm. Many of these masters have undoubtedly experienced the transcendent nature of awakening to this immortal, eternal realm. Here are some quotes concerning our dual nature, Krishna and Goloka Vrindavana, from many of the spiritual masters themselves.
Thus, all the pastimes of Krishna are eternally existing both in the original Goloka Vrindavana planet and in the material universes. One moment, these pastimes are manifest in one universe, and the next moment, they are manifest in the next universe. There are unlimited universes, and Krishna's pastimes are manifest one moment after the other in all of them. All of Krishna's Leelas are present simultaneously throughout the innumerable universes. By our limited senses, we cannot appreciate this. Therefore, Krishna's eternal pastimes are very difficult for us to understand. Although the Lord is appearing constantly in the material universes, his pastimes are eternally present in the original Goloka Vrindavana. Therefore, these pastimes are called Nitya Leela, eternally present pastimes. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakura. The soul is like a divine spark, an eternal resident of the spiritual realm. Yet, in its journey through the material world, it is as if in a state of slumber. By the practice of sincere devotion, one can awaken to the reality that they are eternally part of the spiritual world, even while residing in the material body. Radhanath Swami, The Journey Home. The living entities in the material world are in a state of spiritual amnesia. Their real self exists eternally in Goloka Vrindavana, but due to their entanglement in material nature, they are in a state akin to sleep, unaware of their true blissful nature. Jiva Goswami, Vaishnava philosopher, Bhagavat Sandarbha. Just as a dreamer in this material world may experience himself in various places, the soul, although presently conditioned by material nature, eternally exists in the spiritual sky. The awakening of the soul's true nature is the process of realizing this simultaneous existence. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Bhagavad Gita as it is. The Jiva soul, although now trapped in the material body, eternally resides in Goloka Vrindavana as a servant of Krishna. Through the practice of devotion, bhakti, one can awaken to this truth and experience their eternal spiritual identity even while in the material world. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Chaitanya Charitamrita. The material world is described as a dream or an illusory representation of the spiritual world. Just as in a dream, one creates a reality that ceases to exist upon waking, similarly, the material world ceases to be significant when one awakens to the spiritual reality of Goloka Vrindavana. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Bhagavad Gita as it is.
Although we have an extreme respect for the visionary work of these Eastern teachers, we both deeply agree and greatly differ on the nature of Goloka Vrindavana. Many of them, although speaking in part the same as we do, also speak of this abode in childlike stories, discoursing on the pastimes of Krishna, saying that on Goloka Vrindavana, Krishna dances with female gopis, has a picnic with the cowherd boys, plays tricks on villagers, and as a baby steals butter to eat out of a vat. Although these are obviously just culturally important allegories, beautiful in their descriptions, and in that way part of tradition and useful, many Gaudiya Vaishnava devotees take them literally, as if the world of the mythic is equal to the unfathomable, infinite realm of the totality state of existence. For us, this is just as misguided as believing that God made the earth in 7 days, and the world is 6,000 years old, as is described in the biblical canon. Most of these mythic tales of Krishna come out of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is also, like the Bhagavad Gita, filled with wisdom and truth, but also embedded within story and allegory. We talk more about revelatory poetics in another chapter below, giving more salience to our position as perennialists concerning their nature to truth.
Kali herself is Maharatri, the great universal night, wherein everything merges into the vastness of cosmic space. In her power of dissolution, she brings about a termination, disbanding and conclusion of all moha, delusion, and maya, the illusion. Kali, in her aspect as goddess, Gaya Vidya, the secret knowledge, is the Divine Mother bestowed with all spiritual and occult wisdom beyond the range of the human mind and senses. Shambhavi Chopra, Yogic Secrets of the Dark Goddess.
Although we share many agreements with the philosophies of Chaitanya and Ramanuja, as did Sri Ramakrishna, and with the wisdom expounded by the more recent A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada from Gaudiya Vaishnava Vedanta, in matters concerning the inherent nature of the cosmos and liberation, we adopt a more Shakta philosophical perspective regarding the nature of the infinite relationship. It's easy to lose sight of our eternal natures when allegorical stories are taken literally. Shambhavi describes Kali as Maharatri, the great universal night, where everything dissolves into the vastness of the cosmic space. She is the force that ends delusion, moha, in illusion, maya, and the experience of samadhi remains indescribable in nature. Yet, some mistakenly believe that indulging in fantastical imaginings, like believing they are gopis dancing with Krishna, his bathwater, or a leaf on a tree in the spiritual realm, represents spiritual realization. However, this is not enlightenment, and may even be the proceedings of a deep descent into delusion. True realization lies in understanding the symbolic nature of these stories, in using them to transcend the limitations of the human mind and senses, accessing the secret knowledge, Gaudiya Vida, that Kali embodies. It is through this understanding that we can truly encounter the infinite. Our school's approach to Krishna aligns closely with the Vaishnava school's perception, viewing him as the super persona and the transcendent supreme Purusha of the cosmos. In this view, we pray and celebrate his omnipresent form in a manner similar to the worship of the God of the Bible in Western traditions. However, the experience itself moves beyond and merges into the infinite in an eternal bliss with Krishna and the Devi. This merging manifests as their ecstasy or lila, an indescribable reality where we, as the knower, are engulfed by the vast void of Makali and Shakti, the dynamic energy in a womb extending from the material world into the infinite unknown. Here, we are in full agreement that the final transcendence represents a realization of God, where our innate inner nature, the self we barely recognize in its totality, expands. Within us, the singularity is recognized as Lord Krishna, experiencing through our transcendent pilgrimage, embodying the Supreme Being that encompasses both Shiva, consciousness, and the material existence, the incarnating force of Vishnu, the Father. This merging with the infinite is not a dissolution of the self, but rather an expansion of consciousness, realizing our inherent oneness with the divine. It is a state of pure being, where the limitations of the individual ego dissolve, and we become immersed in the boundless love and joy of Krishna. This experience is not merely theoretical or intellectual, it is a deeply felt reality that transforms the very core of our being, leading to a life of profound meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. Theurgy is an act of supra-rationality, which certainly leads to experiences some would deem supernatural, but this is far removed from the underpinning unconscious swallowing the conscious mind in its fantasy-like prominence, taking over the real world with one of pure illusion. This is the exact process Jung speaks of those that suffer from schizophrenia. Those unfamiliar with divination or ritual theurgy may categorize the acts and rites in ritual as fantasy, but these are simply those that have never practiced. Theurgists, much like Tantric Buddhists, aim at a state of indestructible wakefulness. In doing so, the imagination is of critical importance as an open, clear, receptive womb for the divine illuminations received through the perfecting natures of the eternal archetypes and forms. The imagination is to receive new data through realized synchronistic experiences of wholeness. If the mind is clouded with fantasies about cowherd boys, gopis, and overall human-created tales and stories, whatever their source, as a destination in the process of awakening to our immortal natures, this is not a move towards super-rationality. This is a move towards escapism and potentially worse, delusion. Central to Sri Chaitanya's teaching is the concept of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, which posits that the Supreme Lord is simultaneously one with and different from his creation. This philosophical stance supports the idea that while the Supreme Purusha, embodying both consciousness and the transcendent body of the multiverse as Krishna, is inherent within all existence, it also transcends the material realm. Even as we achieve union and liberation, Krishna remains ever present, outside our experiences, as the transcendent loving Father. We will extensively expound upon this beautiful philosophical stance in the chapters to come, fully affirming our agreement with this tenet. When viewing this through the syncretic marriage of the tantric and philosophical movements that emerge with Shaktism, what becomes clear is this: we are one with Krishna, his material existence, the body of the cosmos, is Shakti, the divine Devi. Therefore, Krishna is bound within the womb of existence, and also manifests as the incarnating force of the Devi, bound within his Leela. As stated in the Devi Bhagavatam, they manifest together, co-equal and inseparable. These ideas become more salient in forthcoming chapters. As transcendent beings, reaching a state where Goloka Vrindavana is realized awakens us to the eternal spiritual nature inherent within every being. This realization of our innate natures stems from the eternal mind of Krishna. He sees through our eyes, and we become aware of the omnipresence of his transcendental form. It is easy to declare, "I am God," and indeed, in a sense, we are. But in all humility, we remain human beings, experiencing life through the lens of the infinite, still children of the living Father, as stated in the Gospel of Thomas. Iamblichus had a way of describing our place in the cosmos that I really like. Humans, in their quest for perfection through interaction with the gods and the eternal archetypes and forms, can achieve a level of human salvation akin to the immortal heroes, who serve the gods, being both half human and half God. It is by exploring that aspect of the self, turning inwards to identify the immortal soul related to the gods, that one can embark on the salvic path. Through great effort, one can ascend to the hall of the heroes. We, in our infinite natures, are connected to the immortal, eternal singularity, interwoven at every point of the cosmic horizon, just as we are. Here, we are one with the self-God archetype, a unified part of the whole. In moments of synchronicity and clarity, our divine eternal natures awaken to a spark of the infinite fire, and we gain true human enlightenment, revealing our immortal selves within the greater consciousness of the cosmos. We are capable of experiencing and expressing this nature, achieving higher states of wholeness. Although this is the case, the whole itself, God, the totality state of existence, our divine infinite being, also remains separate and absolutely beyond our ability to comprehend in its supreme ultimate reality.
I am the intelligence of the intelligent, the splendor of the splendid. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Lord Krishna, Bhagavad Gita.
Goloka Vrindavana is Krishna's domain, his spiritual planet, and the unbounded collection of cosmic horizons in every bubble universe of the multiverse, within the eternal inflating geometric unity of the megaverse, of multiverses. Through this process of God realization, where we see through the eyes of the immortal divine double, it is the singularity, the will of the Father, Vishnu, incarnating as Krishna, that causes the awakening of our infinite natures. This knowledge does not whisk us away to a realm of fantasy, but transforms the very world around us, every part, revealing that which before remained hidden to us. As it is said on Goloka Vrindavana, we are asleep, and it is this world, our waking world experience, where we awaken to its presence.
Mother Nature has no religion. Her scriptures are open-ended without boundaries. Our inner consciousness relates to the abundance and beauty of nature's world, the divine spirit of the tree, the mountain rocks, and flowing rivers. I usually energize stones through mantras and prayers before immersing them in the river's flow to allow the vibrations of the currents to repeat my thoughts. The rapidly flowing river becomes the stream of a prayer. Shambhavi Chopra, Yogic Secrets of the Dark Goddess. Iamblichus insists that the way back to the gods is revealed in the hieroglyphs of nature, in minerals, plants, animals, seasonal changes, and in traditional rites that celebrate them through song, prayer, dance, images, and finally in the subtlest of all hieroglyphs, the divine numbers, that sustain all life and allow the soul its most intimate participation in the One. For theurgists, nature reveals the soul's lost divinity, and to recover it the soul needs to move into resonance with the gods hidden and revealed in material objects. Recognizing the correspondence or analogia between an earthly object and its heavenly archetype, theurgists were able to create receptacles to bring the soul into resonance with its God. The divine powers in nature serve collectively as the tuning instrument for embodied souls. Gregory Shaw, Hellenic Tantra. The theurgists, hierotakoi, have framed their hieratic knowledge by observing how all things are in all from the sympathy that all visible things and invisible powers have for one another. For they were amazed to see last things in the first, and the very first things in the last. In heaven they saw earthly things acting causally and in a heavenly manner, and in the earth, heavenly things in an earthly manner. Proclus, on the hieratic art according to the Greeks.
An awakening to the world of Goloka Vrindavana starts with a return to animism and the anthropomorphization, deification, personification of the entire world of form. Animism is the belief that objects, places, and creatures all possess a distinct spiritual essence or consciousness. This belief is rooted in indigenous and traditional religious practices far predating written history by thousands of years, and still very alive today in many forms of shamanism globally. Animism holds that all non-human entities such as animals, plants, rocks, rivers, and even weather phenomena have spirits and souls. Animism sees the world as being alive and interconnected through a web of spiritual relationships. For Platonists, this interconnected web is the anima mundi.
In her form as driti, or steadiness, Ma Kali represents the highest transformation of matter into divinity, an exalted state of transcendence in which every atom is infused with awareness. As the Divine Mother, her compassion embraces life and death, joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, enhancing the essence of all deep feelings. Her self-evident mystery is one of divine love, the very presence of the eternal in the transient, like the fragrance exuding from a flower. Shambhavi Chopra, Yogic Secrets of the Dark Goddess.
The material world, the body of the goddess, the Divine Mother, every atom of her transcendent body, has its infinite eternal counterpart at the cosmic horizon, where it is alive, infinite, and God-conscious. This means that everything we see and experience in this physical reality has a corresponding perfect and divine form existing in the spiritual realm. Imagine it like this. A single drop of water reflects the vastness of the sky. The drop is part of the ocean, but it also contains the whole of it. In the same way, every particle of this world is a reflection of the divine totality. As we spoke in the previous chapter, the Srimad Bhagavatam says of Krishna, "You are the only shelter of all these worlds, you are everything, and you are the ultimate creator." And in the Devi Bhagavatam, the Devi further elucidates, "The Supreme Goddess resides within Krishna, enhancing his play and pastimes within the infinite universes that emanate from him. As the Divine Mother, she manifests alongside him, enriching the cosmic dance." Krishna's eternal pastimes are manifested within the play, or Leela of the goddess, the cosmic horizon, and the manifest material world. This speaks to the inseparable nature of the divine masculine and feminine principles. Krishna, the ultimate creator, is the source of all universes, but within him resides the goddess, the creative energy that gives form and life to his creation. Imagine an artist with a vision. Krishna is the vision, the inspiration, and the goddess is the brush that brings that vision to life on the canvas of reality. Their dance is the interplay of energy and consciousness that creates and sustains the cosmos. Fostering a relationship with the personification and deification of the material world opens us to the supra-persona of the infinite expressions of the totality state, the incarnating Krishna, recognizing all of existence to be God-conscious, eternal, and immortal, within the One, our divine infinite being. Seeing Goloka Vrindavana here on earth, through a form of super-rational fine-tuning of our immortal natures, opens one to the true state of Krishna Consciousness, where the body of the Mother Devi, the goddess that manifests within Krishna's Leela, illuminates. By recognizing the divine essence within the material world, we transcend the limitations of our physical senses and perceive the interconnectedness of all things. The fine-tuning is a process of spiritual awakening, where we shift our perception from the illusion of separation to the reality of unity. Goloka Vrindavana, the eternal abode of Krishna, is not just a far-off heaven, but a state of consciousness that we can access here and now. When we see the world through the eyes of Krishna Consciousness, the divine play of the goddess is revealed, and we realize that everything is an expression of the One, our divine infinite being.
If those who lead you say to you, "Look, the kingdom is in the sky," then the birds will get there first. If they say, "It's in the ocean," then the fish will get there first. But the kingdom of God is within you and outside of you. Once you come to know yourselves, you will become known. The Gospel of Thomas. For the theurgist, by energizing in conjunction with the divine light, and by participating in the power of the gods, is able to ascend to the divine essence, and to partake of the whole hierarchy of divine orders, even while still in the body. Iamblichus. De Mysteriis.
Goloka Vrindavana, where we are infinite, eternal, and completely God-conscious, is here in our waking life as experiencing human entities. Radiating in on vibrating strings of energy through the gravitational back reaction in from every point of the spherical cosmic horizon is the entire material universe, the eternal archetypes and forms, the infinite pastimes of Krishna fused into our every experience. The more we welcome the presence of this higher spiritual world of Krishna's abode, the more we see it in the world. This furthers the depths of our experience until this world, where we live and breathe, is transformed into Goloka Vrindavana itself, and we come to the full realization that death is but an illusion. No longer asleep here in the world, we are already eternally present with the God-conscious varieties of life, seeing the eternal not only in ourselves but everywhere and within everything. The trees come alive, the swaying grass whispers, the mountains gain personality, the rivers speak, birds singing becomes radiant praises to the all, lightning flashes spell omens, The moon enchants our soul. The sun's conscious being beckons us, and the world fills with divinatory synchronicity and meaning. We open fully to our intuitive divine nature, capable of receiving revelation, prophecy, and through the eternal being that we are, breaking the bonds of Chronos, we embrace the eternal time of Aeon. Goloka Vrindavana, heaven on earth, is given to the seeker that allows its Holy Spirit to dwell in the heart, and Lord Krishna to become one's eyes, where one sees as their immortal self through the eye of the soul, and the world is transformed.